Tuesday evening. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I am Saad in South London, and very shortly I'll be joined by my colleague Gregory. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program, as I said, and the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Aprushing. Now I can welcome my colleague Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine. It is dark and cold.
Okay, say here in London, I will say right now it is also dark and cold. Well, not so cold actually, because it has been much colder recently. I think it might even be 14 degrees. So I will call it even mild. And it's going to get even warmer. They're saying later in the week it could be 18 degrees. So somehow you wouldn't believe it's winter. So anyway, welcome everyone to this spiritual discussion program. Every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic for tonight is family first or the law first. Family first or the law first. If you have any questions or comments, you can join in by contacting us on our UK phone number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Aprushing, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Aprushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we're discussing tonight is family first or the law first. Family first or the law first. Now, you might be being puzzled about what is this topic about. So let me say what was the inspiration or the reason behind it. So in the recent news in UK, that was last week basically, there were headlines about this former Prince Andrew, who's been arrested, and that was, I think, either Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember now, last week. So and then when that happened, it was less a surprise or maybe shocking for people. So King Charles responded in that by saying that the law must take its course. So we know there's a royal family having some things to deal with, especially this, there's a headline news of the Prince Andrew or former Prince Andrew being arrested. It's causing scandal for the family, and then the law is involved obviously in the arrest. So the king felt he had to speak out, and as I say, he made this statement: the law must take its course. And we know, let's say, family is important and the law is important, but which comes first? That's the topic for tonight. So now, as usual, I like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic in the dictionary, even if they might sound very, how can I say, obvious. So Gregory, so I decided to look that up. The first word there is family. I've got in there, in the dictionary, 3 different meanings. So let's look at what it says there and see how relevant it is for our topic of discussion. So the first meaning for the word family, it says a group of 1 or 2 parents and their child or children living together as a unit. So let me repeat that. A group of 1 or 2 parents and their child or children living together as a unit. That is how this definition of family has been put there. So Gregory, what do you say about this meaning?
Well, thanks for asking these questions. In the first place, that expression family, the conception of it is much broader. That means the length and breadth and depth of it is much larger than the narrow confines it has been pressed into when one considers the meanings from the dictionary. Though it's a bit helpful, but it is too narrow to be considered as an intrinsic definition of what family is.
Thank you for that point. And I want to say there are 2 other meanings, and one of those meanings is a broader definition. In fact, it's well, let me go there in a minute. I don't want to preempt it yet. So let me now move on to the second meaning, which is very similar to the first one, but I will still continue with it. They say this again. The word is family. In the meaning, another meaning that is in the dictionary, it says all the descendants of a common ancestor. So yeah, all the descendants of a common ancestor. Gregory, how is that better? Any better?
The thing is that the framework from which this is considered gives it a completely different meaning. It's very similar to the earlier one.
Yes.
It is helpful but still very narrow.
Okay. As I said, there is one which is more broader, and here we go. This is the one. It says a group of related things. So a group of related things. Now that's very, how can I say, different. Yes. Let me give you the example they have given in this for this definition. So all manuscripts that share this reading constitute a family. So Gregory, how's this one?
That is a bit more in depth and much better because it refers to a group, and there is another word in there which is
related
relation.
things. Yes, a group of related things. So it's not only human beings; it can be basically non-human beings as well. So yes, and so they gave the example of manuscripts share constituting a family. So obviously it's a totally different how can I say, example than the general one that we are used to, I can say. So yes, let us continue, because there's a lot of I have to go through a couple more things, and I want to get into the real discussion as well. So okay, the next word is in the topic is first. And again, I found 3 meanings in the dictionary for that. So the first one, coming before all others in time or order. And they gave another short word, earliest. So the first meaning of the word first, coming before all others in time or order. Earliest is the other key word. What do you say to this one, Gregory?
Well, it's self-explanatory. There is the ordinal, and the first ordinal is what is being referred to there. Coming before others. So one has to deduce the meaning. So it is acceptable, though it could be much broader.
Okay, so there are 2 more to go. So the second one, for the meaning of the word first, it says foremost in position, rank, or importance. So I'll repeat that. Foremost in
acceptable.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. And the third one, again for the meaning of the word first, it says with a specified part or person in a leading position. So it's not just a person, it can be a part, it says. A specified part or person in a leading position.
Well, it is helpful, but I think the first 2 encapsulate what we're trying to use.
Okay, that's fine. And the final one, I'm calling it the law, just to make it easy to say it. So the meaning there, well, I've actually got four definitions for this one. The first one, it says the system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members, and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. So let me repeat that. The system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members, and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. How is that one?
Such is for society.
Yes.
And therefore it is helpful.
Good. Let us continue. The next one, I will say it's slightly irrelevant, but I will say it anyway. This is a rule defining correct procedure or behavior in a sport. And they say the laws of the game. So a rule defining correct procedure or behavior in a sport. How's this one?
It's a pointer, but a pointer which is helpful but may not be utilized within our framework.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, I did say I wasn't sure how relevant that was, so let me continue. The next one is, again, the meaning of the word law. It says a statement of fact deduced from observation to the effect that a particular natural or scientific phenomena always occurs if certain conditions are present. And they give an example of that. The second law of thermodynamics. Let me repeat that. A statement of fact deduced from observation to the effect that a particular natural or scientific phenomenon always occurs if certain conditions are present. What do you say to this one, Gregory?
Again, from the framework of nature, it is helpful, but in a very narrow sense with regards to the so-called sciences.
Okay, and the last one, again, the meaning of the word law, a body of divine commandments as expressed in the Bible or other religious texts. So the body of divine commandments as expressed in the Bible or other religious texts. That's the law. How's this one now?
These are helpful. However, the law which is referred to in nature from the perspective of nature is completely independent of religious observations, because it is from these laws of nature, which many may refer to as divine laws, it is from these that all that exists in creation rests.
Okay, so I'm going to explore that in a bit later on, but that's quite a different perspective from what we have been finding in the dictionary. I mean, I think only one of them seemed close because it was mentioning nature. So, but I don't want to delve into just so much right now. Let us just go a little bit general at the moment. So, now, as I said, the story, just to recap how we chose the topic tonight, is to do with this story coming from the royal family, where former Prince Andrew was arrested for, actually it was an arrest on the under the investigation of something conduct in the public office, or misconduct in a public office. So, and in the news we've been hearing, let's say, many different things. So that was the reason of that. But we know there were a lot of things that have led up to this point, and hopefully the listeners are familiar with this story already. So I don't need to go into the details. But let's say it's been going on for some years, and now things are somehow unraveling. With before it was just, let's say, accusations being made and not some anything happening out of it. But now, let's say, some police action or justice is now taking its course, as King Charles has said, the law must take its course. So now he's saying those words, although these things have been out there for some years. Any case, so we know there's two groups here, if I can use that word, the family and the law. And both are important, as I said, both are important. And but the question is the family first, or is the law first? And let's say up to now, it seems to have been the family first, and then now the law is coming in. So at least, Gregory, I know when we talked about the law, at least for the dictionary meaning, we're talking earthly law, except there was one case of, you could say, science or natural law. The example they gave was second law of thermodynamics, which is something that is seen in nature, and science has observed it, and made a law out of it, expressed it as a law. So that's something they can say this is fact, that this is how it is. Then we're talking about the earthly law, where the human beings have made a system where they want to, how can I say, regulate is the word they've been using, regulate the actions of, let's say, society, the people in society. But that, you could say, in fact, Gregory, we can even almost compare. There's the way the natural law works and the way the human law works. So, it's quite a different thing. I just don't want to, let me just think if I want to talk about that straight away. So, yes. Now, let me. Yeah, Gregory, when we consider, we're trying to look at family and the law, Gregory, okay, I know you said the law of nature or law of creation doesn't have to align with, let's say, religious texts where there's law given there as well. It doesn't always, you don't rely, how can I say, make that the basis of your living your life. So can I ask about that, Gregory? So this law that the human beings and religious texts have that exist, how should it relate with the laws of nature and creation? Can you just say something about that? Because the way you said it, you gave the clue that, or hint that maybe these things are quite different, and maybe we need to show that. If you can talk about that, the human earthly laws, rules, system, and then this natural laws.
The natural laws, which is referred to, are these, one may refer to them as the rules through which all that exists in nature rests. That means they form the framework for continuity in nature. Therefore, you will find that all that one may refer to as belonging to nature, be the elements, the hills, the dales, even human personality in flesh and blood. The laws of nature regulates the existence of the contents of nature. For only through nature were they able to come into existence. This is different from the social order which many a society have put in place. The social orders, which they now refer to as laws, vary from one community to another. The same thing happens to the cases of so-called religion, where there are all sorts of variations. That is not what it's referred to when it comes to the laws of nature. For these laws, they are completely independent of human views and human regulations. Therefore, they are unique, and they will still exist whether human personalities exist on earth or not. These laws which we are referring to applies to not only to the earthly, but to other places in the universe, the sun, the stars, and all these are regulated through the laws of nature. Whereas when one considers societal laws, these vary. These are very simple rules which vary from community to community based on their inner maturity to find out how they can live in harmony with neighbors, with fellow human beings, or with the animals, or with even the plants. So these are completely different frameworks, the human societal laws and the laws of nature which have always been.
Thank you very much for talking and giving this picture to us, Gregory. I just felt we need to lay a foundation for this discussion so that we are clear what law we are talking about when we are, I mean, let's say if I will go back to the story, how the topic started, where King Charles was saying the law must take its course. Of course, he's referring to the human law taking its course. And then we have this natural law, which, as you said, regulates or governs the whole of existence, everything that exists. But it is independent of the human laws that we, society, have introduced, you can say. And of course it existed before the humans, and will continue, the natural law that is, and it will continue to exist after the humans. Let's say if there are no more humans on this earth, it will continue to exist, the natural law. While the human law, of course, is only dependent on the human beings. So yes, and they are different. That's not about just the nature, let's say, governs the whole universe, but the way they work is also different. As you said, within the human societies, there can be differences with the different societies. Each one makes their own law, and there will be differences there. But one thing about the laws of nature, it is universal wherever it acts, whether it's on the earth, in the solar system, or beyond. Now, let's go to the family. I know these things are maybe not written in law as such, but it's all implied. So there are parents and there are children, and the parents are to take care of the children. It's just understood, and it's just, there's no dispute on that. And that's what, let's say, in general, that's what takes place. Then, of course, and even, Gregory, I know we said there are religious commandments which may not agree with the natural laws, but let's look at one of them. We have, for example, in the 10 Commandments in the Bible, there's one which says, honor father and mother, which is, of course, concerning the family. So, and that implies that the children should respect their parents. And I guess it's because the parents are looking after the children. So, Gregory, is that law, honor father and mother, it could apply to animals as well in a sense, but let's just stay with human beings. So, Gregory, that law or commandment, thou shalt honor father and mother, is that, how can I say, Yes, is that pointing for the children to respect their parents, or there's more to it?
Definitely, there's more to it. Basically, that's law to honor father and mother primarily is directed to fatherhood and motherhood. The children are not yet parents. Therefore, one must consider that that particular law is directed beyond, at the initial stage, the capacity of the children. For a 5 or a 2-year-old or 1-year-old or 6 months old, that does not apply to the child because it's still basically unconscious of what its responsibilities are. However, parents and guardians, they understand this. And that being the case, that law primarily refers to them. It is they, through their activities, who should honor what fatherhood is or motherhood is. Fatherhood or motherhood that provides the protection for the younger ones before too long, when the younger ones are able to mature to reach that point where they are capable of looking after themselves. So that law is primarily to parents and guidance, and even to the society. To society where you have parents, where you have guardians who are supposed to protect these young ones, to bring them up to know what responsibilities are.
Thanks a lot for that, Gregory. There's more I would like to discuss about this. But before I do that, I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushin. If you want to have more information about the Grail message, or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is family first or the law first. Family first or the law first. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show tonight, which is family first or the law first. And after the show ends, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. You go to the search box and then type in the same words there, which is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, family first or the law first. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/radio/bless radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, let's go back to the family bond, or the love between the family members, between parents and their children, which of course you can say is also a natural thing. We just talked about the parents or the guardians looking after their children, as one of the 10 commandments commands. But as I said, this should be natural between the parents and the children. So, and as you said, Gregory, it is the parents or guardians' duty to give protection to the children, since they are not able to look after themselves or take responsibility. Now, when the children, Gregory, grow older to be adults, do the parents still have to protect their children? I know they're adult children now, or should the children even leave the home in most cases and go on a separate life? But they said, there's a family bond or connection, and when, let's say, there's a need by these adult children for some it's meant to be a two-way street, but let's say in this case there's some the adult children have some need which they are not able to handle themselves, and then they, let's say, talk with their parents, and the parents say, okay, we will give you some help. So can I ask, Gregory, is that, how can I say, natural, if I can say that way, or is that all right to get help from the parents when you are becoming an adult? Or should you just be left to go on your own 2 feet, and if you sink or swim, that's like left to you? Or, as I say, should their parents ever help, or should they be left to stand on their own 2 feet?
First, that expression love must be taken or could be replaced by another expression, welfare. So with that, in any society that works in harmony, that means the individuals that make up the society, they all work in harmony. It should be that there is the one for all and all for one. That is how it should be. So it is, or it should be, with the case of children. But one shouldn't forget, just as parents had to move away from their initial abode in order to experience and build up a formidable personality through the way they handle challenges, so also must they permit their offspring to sally forth, such that through the challenges they are able to deal with, they are able to overcome, they should become independent. That is how it is intended within the laws of nature. However, there are cases where these offsprings are not strong enough to stand on their own. That does not mean that help should be denied them. But these offsprings must ensure that they go out to do battle, which battle will strengthen them, such that before long they should become independent.
Thank you very much for that answer and the picture you've painted for us there. So you can say there is a principle of a child being brought up by the parents or guardians to be, to adulthood, to become independent. But it's not such a hard and fast rule that now you are adult, no more further help need to be offered when there is a need. But in general, you're supposed to stand on your own 2 feet or become independent. That's how it's supposed to be. But yes, there can be cases where that doesn't happen. So yes, obviously if there was an emergency, it applies mutually to both sides. The children who are adult will look after their parent if the parent needs help, and vice versa. It will happen, although of course there can be separate families when the adult children are married or with their partners and so on, that they could have a separate family, but it doesn't mean that the parents can't get involved. So yes, so thank you for let's say leaving it open for, according to the circumstances, how to act, not to, and like I say, hard and fast rule. No, you're an adult, you go on your own 2 feet, that's it. Whatever happens. So it's not to be taken there. And as you said, the word love, it should be taken as, you can think of it as welfare, which it helps us to understand this concept much better. So thank you for that. Now, I need to go to and fro between the law and the family because of the story that I'm trying to look at. And although this is a story in the news, it applies to us, everybody, with their own family, of course, as well. Because, as we said earlier, family is there for protection. And yes, there is protection. But can that protection, let's say, go beyond, against the law? At the moment I'm thinking about the human law, but it can also be against the natural law. So I'm trying to look at them both, as required. So let me go there now. So Gregory, I know in our previous shows we have said it appears that people who are rich or well off or in leading positions, obviously they have an advantage over others in society who are not so well off in financially or education or so, which, okay, that is understandable. But then when it comes to the law, you think the law should apply equally to all, no one is above the law, whether you are the king or royal family or the common man. At least that's what we say. But when we observe in reality, it seems as those people in power or leading position seem to have a, let's say, well, I won't say they're above the law, but they definitely seem to get, they seem to have some influence which makes them, which the common man doesn't have that influence. And so the law seems to hit the common man much harder than the people who are in more leading positions. They seem to have some way of protection, let's say. I'm not going to try and say they evade the law, but basically the justice doesn't seem to happen as quickly for them, according to the human. Now I'm talking about the human law now. So, but as we are seeing currently, that is not, protection isn't so strong as it may have been in the past. Let's say the public, in today's world of technology, things come out in the news very quickly. There's a response in the public, and then the next thing happens, you can say, with public pressure, and or let's say more things are revealed. As things are revealed more and more, let's say things move quicker than that what used to happen in the past. Things in the past, they would be hidden. Somebody had an affair, nobody would know. Maybe after 20 years, maybe somebody will find out, and so no action would be taken then. But in today's world, things, the news comes out quickly, it spreads fast, and then the, let's say, consequences seem to happen to a lot of people. Now, so what I want to go there is, Gregory, this, like I say, Gregory, the human law applies to all the human beings in society, but it appears not to take place like equally the way it happens to the common man as to the people with influence, let's say, or leadership things. So, Gregory, and yet the law is, in writing, and let's say the people enforcing the law, it's supposed to, according to our understanding, it should be the same for everyone. So, Gregory, how can we, that's where people now, when things don't, let's say, work the way you expect them to work, in, let's say, in good justice, in a I don't want to say perfect, because human beings are not perfect, but they don't apply, let's say, equally, Gregory. If the word equally, I mean to all. So when this happens, Gregory, people lose trust and and confidence in these things, and they think some people are not equal anymore in the law. So, Gregory, how can we? Is that some weakness of the human beings there? That the reason to explain that?
You were talking about weakness of the human being.
Yes, and you see, because the law, we're talking about the human law system, let's say the police, the courts, and whatever. Let's say, okay, let me give an example. So let's say somebody is caught stealing in a store. Okay, normally if you're caught, they might take an action with that. But if or maybe that's not the best example, but it's, let's say, some other crime, and they are caught, let's say, easily. However, when it concerns, and let's say it happens at work, some crime happened at work with the colleagues and so on, and let's say, and if, say, you are a director, one of the top people doing that crime, that might be covered up. But say you have a lower level worker, there you might be, how can I say, caught. You'll be put under more, how can I say, dealt with more seriously, quickly. While the people at the top, directors, they seem to get away with the things. So why I'm saying the law is not being applied equally within this thing. So that, is there a weakness within the human beings, or is there what's the explanation for this type of things happening?
It depends on the exposure. If these things are not exposed, whether it be the lower rank or the upper rank, that is material. What happens is, in many cases, in the so-called upper echelon, these violations are not quite visible, and therefore people might hide under it. Whereas in the lower echelon, you find the violations are quite visible and can easily be examined. So it is not that things were hidden. It is the visibility of these. For if you find that in the so-called upper echelons, a director or whatever they sets the company ablaze, and everybody knows that, there's nothing hidden about it. So most of the time it's the visibility or the level of visibility. That's what makes a violation easy to be dealt with. Whereas if it's not, there's very little visibility, it means things have to be investigated so thoroughly. So one should be neutral to these rather than have a blanket statement about it.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. It definitely makes sense if you observe, what in the news, that headlines that we see, this visibility. Certainly, as you said, when you're more exposed, when things are exposed, definitely the actions take place very much more quickly than when they're kept quiet or hidden. So yes, that really does make sense, and especially as I say, in the world of today with modern technology, social media and so on, things are openly, well, that's where the discussion takes place, let's say. But when the facts or stories come out, as they're coming out more and more nowadays, things starts moving faster. So thank you, that does make sense a lot. And so it's not, as I was maybe implying, maybe it's the weakness of the human beings. Is yeah, so thank you for that. Now, so going back to this family and the law, as I said, the family, they try to protect each other. Let's say some wrongdoing has happened, and then let me go there, Gregory. When let's say one of us, anybody has done a wrongdoing, they are embarrassed to admit it. It is you really must be humble to say, yes, I did that. Most likely you want to hide because of the consequences, which can not only affect you, but even, let's say, those people around you. So let's say, let's say we're talking about the royal family. So one member of the royal family, let's say, has been accused of doing wrongdoing, but unfortunately the others, just by being connected, being in the same family, they are now considered, or let's say, if they try and so-called protect or help the one who has been accused of wrongdoing, it looks like they're all doing the wrong through reputation, and then it brings the whole, as I said, makes it embarrassing, and maybe people think, oh, there's some conspiracy going on here, rather than what we say about the law, where, okay, there's been wrongdoing, let him go, he or she go to, be taken in front of the law and dealt with, and rather than somebody trying to protect. When we use the word protect, it's not the same when we're talking about an adult and a child protection, more trying to avoid, how can I say, being caught, or the law being, the law being enforced. So again, Gregory, I'm almost answering the question myself, because it reminded me of what you said in your previous answer about visibility. Once the visibility is there, then even the so-called people trying to protect, they themselves are now exposed. So it really is quite, it's all joined up somehow. So let me think what question I would like to ask on this matter. But yes, my general point is really that how should the family really act? Because if what you're saying, if things are hidden, it seems they can get away. People can get away with things. When things are exposed, they can't get away with these things. So, but that doesn't sound like justice, Gregory. So it doesn't seem it's almost like justice is dependent not on the law, but more on the exposure, like visibility, like you are saying. So that does not look good. How can I say? It doesn't sound right somehow. So is that a weakness of the law somehow, that the law is not able to, how can I say, bring justice?
The question you must ask yourself is, how can you prosecute that which is not visible?
Right. Okay.
So there must be visible. I mean, it has to be visible. That means there must be something to relate to, such that it can be discussed. So if you are in your bedroom and you spill a cup of tea, if you are the only one who saw it and you clean it up, that's not an offense. If, however, you are in the public and you spilled your cup of tea and it splashed on some other people, then that is visible to everyone, for everyone to see. So you may find somebody apologizing, say, sorry, I didn't mean it. However, these violations, it is the motive behind these violations that really count. You will find that in many earthly laws, the motive as such is hidden. Whereas within the laws of nature, the motive cannot be hidden, because the motive is taken into consideration. So all the discussions which people have, and they say, oh, the so-called rich and the so-called poor people, it is not a matter of being rich or being poor, but it's a matter of responsibilities. For those who have all the responsibility to show examples to others of how things should be in order for the society to swing in harmony, to resonate in harmony, it is they themselves, through their activities, that must show examples of how it should be. That is why you have the clamor. You do not accuse a horse or a dog of misbehavior because they lack the responsibilities. They're not taken seriously. But for the human personality that stands out to show examples of harmony, to show examples of how things should be, those ones must be held accountable. It is being held to accountability that one calls justice. It's not impersonal, but the individual must be held accountable because they are the ones who should, through their being, show examples for others to follow. Not doing that is in itself a dereliction of duties.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this, again, your answer there. It really points that to us that we really need to see what is, like I said, behind things that are happening. Like you said, the word intention. These earthly laws don't always really consider that. They just see the outward action. Oh, he did this, he did that, and what was behind it. They don't, let's say, always dig deep into that. Not complete. I don't want to say it's never look at the intention, because they do say motive. When there's a murder, they want to know what is the motive. So it's not quite like that, but the motive, you don't see it necessarily in a physical way, because somebody had a thought they're going to do something. You can't see the thought. You only see the manifestation of the action, the physical action. So, and from that we're supposed to deduce, oh, that was the motive, because unless the person declares that I did it, and most people won't want to admit they have done something, they'll let you try to find it, if you're going to find it or not. They themselves will not incriminate themselves, but that's what we need to see. So I will ask you more on that in a moment, Gregory. Before I do that, I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushing. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, that's Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing on the show tonight is family first or the law first. Family first or the law first. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is family first or the law first. And after the show ends, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. Again, you type the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail message, space family first or the law first. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows as well on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM /radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, I know we said at the beginning that there is the laws of nature, and then there's the human societal laws. which are different. One is operated by nature and the other operated by humans. And the nature, it brought everything into existence. So that's been around a long time before man or human beings. So that's, and also, it basically governs everything that exists, while the human laws basically regulate the human beings. But Gregory, you always think somehow the human beings and the human laws need to, how can I say, align with these laws of nature. One sense you can think of it is, we're living on this earth and we have, let's say, nature around us. We have rivers, seas, mountains, and we human beings have our own activity, industrial activity, which causes pollution and so on, and it has a detrimental effect on, let's say, the landscape or in the oceans and so on, as we know, in the environmental problems that we've had. And then we try to, in quotes, rectify that because we've gone so far that it's even, in quotes, endangering our future as human beings. So that's with nature and the human's activity. You can say one thing we know, there's supposed to be some balance, because we are not the only human beings are not the only beings or living creatures on this planet. We share it with the other creatures, and they, in quotes, have a right to exist as well. So we need to have harmony there, not only amongst the human beings, but with the other creatures. Now let's go back to the human laws and see how we could make them align with the laws of nature. And I mean, when I say that, I don't mean just, yes, you could talk about pollution and so on, to be in harmony with nature in that way. But maybe, Gregory, we could learn to make the human laws, let's say, in harmony with these natural laws. Why I'm saying that is, whenever you look at nature, you see things beautiful. You see somehow there's a cycle where all the things that the nature produces, it's there seems to be some, how can I say, some sort of harmony there, despite all the different species of animals and plants. Yes, in quotes, it looks like they're battling each other for survival, one trying to eat the other one or live on the other one, but somehow there's still some sort of balance going on. And even, Gregory, we know that when we're looking, let's say, for cures, we find things from nature that the scientists use to make their medication from, through their research. So we're already doing it in some sort of way, and even in technology we are doing it, but somehow it's not quite how nature, maybe it's perfected the art of living in balance, whilst the human beings don't seem to be able to do that. So, Gregory, what's happened there, Gregory? Did the human beings sort of stray from nature, while what could have led that? Because nature is supposed to govern and regulate things, but it seems that human beings separated from nature.
Well, it's because there is that separation, which separation has now turned to a violation of the laws of nature. That is why you have the scenario in which man is currently. If there were no violations, then this current scenario would not exist. everything would have been harmonious.
Thank you. So yes. Now, I'm trying to see if this, how can I relate it to family? Animals also have family, but we humans seems to live a bit different. So Gregory, do the, let's say, other creatures have some connection to nature which the human being lacks? So are they able to tune in? Because we know, for example, birds and these animals, they could have a higher sense of, let's say, okay, we know, for example, dogs, they have a higher sense of smell than a human, or they can sense. Even I've heard stories there. Let's say somebody has got cancer, and the pet dog has a sensing of it, and he tries to comfort the owner, or it has a sensing. In fact, they have said it could sense the mood of the owner and so on. So is there something higher, Gregory? Because maybe we humans have lost. I know we said we're disconnected, but those animals have a higher ability than the human beings in this matter, that they can live in harmony more with nature than us human beings. That's what I'm trying to see. Where have we gone wrong?
The human personality, the inner core of the human personality is of spirit. The spirit, by its nature, is granted the free will to make free decisions. With the so-called animals, they are not of the spirit, and they do not have the free will as such to make decisions. What you have with the animals is that they respond to the gentle guidance of those who advise them or guide them along. The human personality also has guides, but due to his or her activities, they do not listen to the gentle guidance of others. So you find that refusal, again based on a free will, to listen to the guidance makes them make some decisions, or most decisions, which are not in harmony with the laws of nature. Hence the quagmire they have found themselves.
Thanks a lot for that answer there, Gregory. When you're talking about this guidance for the animal and for the humans, is it the guy? Where is this guidance coming from? Is it other humans or some other? Is it something from within us, or is it some other being? Where is this guidance coming from?
Very nice question. For many, such guidance, as is mentioned, sounds strange, sounds incomprehensible. But the key here is that man is of spirit. And being of spirit, the arrangement in creation is such that just as you have parents, just as you have in that commandment to honor fatherhood and motherhood, that basically is for the parents or the guardian, those who take care, who guide the children to make sure the children grow up properly in order gradually to build up themselves such that they may live in harmony with others. That's, for many, a human personality. Even as a child, they are able to perceive, and if they listen to this, or if they follow this guidance, then they are able to avoid many a disappointment. So you find in creation, there are also guides. Guides, these are personalities in the beyond. In the beyond, those who, for some, have a better realization of what the laws of creation, or the laws of nature, what they are, and in that particular case, are able to nudge the human personality here on earth to swing in the right direction, to harmonize with its environment and with its neighbors. If, however, the individual refuses to, because it has its own free will, then it is on its own because it has severed that connection through which the guide is able to use. In the case of animals, they have always been guides. Guides in the sense that there are others, just like you have for human personalities. There are others, not basically of human beings, but of their kind, that is able to get in touch with them, for they are able to perceive the presence of these guides, and they are able to respond to these guides. They respond easily because they do not have free will just as humans do. And that is why they are able now to follow these guides based on their sensitivities, and they are able now to help others, like you mentioned in the case of cancer. But subsequently, these animals are trained to it.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, about, with this answer about guidance, where it comes from. You said the beyond. So people might be wondering, oh, what is the beyond? It's something sounds mysterious. And but then you also told us that we are spirit. We human beings are spirit, and the animals, they are not spirit. But the bottom line is they're able to tune in to their guides, which are, let's say, in the beyond. And then this way, they can, once you follow that, you will be helped, What I'm seeing, Gregory, this guidance, it seems to always be right, from what you're saying. I know that's, in a way it is implied, but then you're thinking, is that really always this way? Because how are this, in a way, these people in the beyond, the beings that are in the beyond, how are they knowing these things? Because Gregory, is that something, this guidance that is given, is it like a perfectly correct guidance? I'm just exploring this now. It just came to me that what I'm basically saying, Gregory, can we rely on the guidance 100%, that it's always right?
The basis of this discussion is an introduction to the walk in the light of truth, the Grail message of Abraham. At the introduction, which you read out, it presents a picture of creation on the basis of the natural laws, that is the laws of nature, or the laws of creation. Therefore, any individual that needs to know more, such an individual should make the effort to examine and to weigh the work in the light of truth, to examine the activities which are perceptible to the five senses, the actions, to also to weigh and examine in thoughts. The human thoughts are not perceptible to one's hands, to one's taste, to one's eyes. However, no one asks, do thoughts exist? It is assumed. Not only assumed, we know we think. That in itself is a fact. In the same vein, the human personality must weigh and examine using one's intuition. The statement one had made is, man is of spirit. It is the activities of the spirit, of the human spirit, that generates the intuition which impacts itself on the back brain and subsequently on the frontal brain. So there are three different categories. The foremost category is that of the human intuition. Secondly, it is the human thoughts. And finally, the activities, the actions of the human personality. These are the three different categories which each individual must concern itself with when examining this work. Not only just examining the work, but must look outside of itself, the happenings within himself and without of himself, the whole cosmos in nature. In the process of these activities, the human personality gradually but certainly will come to personal conviction through these activities, and finally to a realization of this guidance that has been mentioned. Most of the time, many are able to sense this guidance. However, because they have their free will, they may follow the guidance or they may ignore it. More as to how and why that is, many may examine this work to find out for themselves.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this again answer about how the guidance, where the guidance comes and how it is right, and referring us to go and pick up the Grail message, examine what is written there, and see what, if that makes sense for you or not. Yes, so the things are explained there, and as you said, this program is about an introduction rather than giving every single answer in detail. We like pointers to the Grail message where the answers are actually there, and it will require effort, whoever wishes to put that effort in to find this, to confirm it for themselves. So thank you for that. Now, the other thing that came to me, Gregory, when we're talking for guidance, or let's say help from when you're talking about family in this case, so there's parents and the children. In this particular story that I'm talking, is the children are adults, so it's not quite children that we normally talk about. But the question I want to ask there, Gregory, so when we have, let's say, in this case, let's say royal family, king and let's say queen, and then the children that come from it, from the king and the queen, they say there's a hierarchy, meaning that the king and queen, or let's say just say king for now, is responsible overall and making decision, and then maybe the children, who are adults in this case, also involved in the decision making, but the final say comes from the king. So that's what I mean by hierarchy, that somebody at the top makes a decision. Similarly, when in government, when we have a prime minister and the ministers, the final say comes from the prime minister. All the ministers can give their views and opinion, but the final one comes from the prime minister, and that's what will be done when the decisions are made. So now, Gregory, again, that looks fine as long as the decision is correct, let's say, or wise. But when it's what they say, let's call it error of judgment, or basically wrong somehow. Initially, the person making the decision, let's say they say, may not know everything about what is involved in carrying out whatever it is, either appointing someone or going forward with their project or whatever it happens to be. Okay, and then only when after decision has been made, and then actions and decisions come forth from that, something becomes clear. Oh, this is not going to work. This project, or the person that was appointed may not be the appropriate person for this task. and obviously things go wrong when that happens. And then they say, who's responsible? And of course, it should be the one who made the decision. That's because it was their decision. Anyway, let me not go dwell on that just now. So, Gregory, when somebody's making a decision in this high-level position, and they're saying, "Oh, I didn't know all the facts at the beginning, and then I realized later that this was not something was not right here," unless the king has advisors, and even the prime minister would have advisors helping him or her to make a decision. So, Gregory, is it when you make a decision? I know we talked about guidance. Is it you make it by yourself, or do you consult with others and say, okay, this is, and then you make it? How can I say? Based on what you hear, you say, all right, this is the process. This is my decision, and then later you discover, oh, they didn't know what they said was not quite. They didn't know something, and later it came out that, oh, this was like you said earlier, it's not visible, So then, if it's not visible, you can't do something about it. When it becomes visible, they can do something about it. So, but I'm asking, Gregory, when you have mentioned this guidance, can you foresee this type of thing, Gregory, when you don't have all the information in your fingertip at the beginning, and making it in terms of making a decision? Can you foresee that?
The human personality that wishes to lead others and has campaigned to lead others and has now been granted that opportunity based on what it has vowed to do. That human personality must be held accountable for the decisions which has been made. For the so-called leader makes decisions on behalf of those that are being led. You yourself spoke of advisors. Advisors are those who do the real investigations. They do the investigations as best as they can and provide you with that which they themselves have found. That is one part of it. And that basically is that area of activities which are perceptible to the individual. The other part is the investigation through one's thoughts. And the final part is the investigations and the weighing through one's intuitions. That being the case, the individual that has campaigned to become leader must therefore be held accountable for the society which is led. Do not wish to be led into a scenario where they will have to perish or suffer harm. So if your decisions which become final, which have to be implemented, is going to direct the people towards harm's way, then you must be held accountable, because it is you who made that decision, who has that final say. So it's a no-brainer. One will not say, oh, I didn't know. You yourself made that decision. And if you had listened carefully to the advisors, which advisors you yourself selected, they would have given you as much information in their investigations. So all these that I mentioned are only excuses. For if the decisions the individual so-called leader has made has been beneficial, the leader takes the credit, because the buck stops with the leader, and say, oh, I made this decision, it has brought us so much benefit. Everybody is happy and is praised. In a similar fashion, if the decisions that have been made brought harm to the society, then the leader that made that final decision must own up to it. All other things are just unnecessary excuses. For it is most challenging to lead. And those who must be honest with themselves, who lack that inner capacity to listen to their guides, to listen to the advisors, which advisors are available in flesh and blood, those who lack that ability to be able to weigh with the three senses or the three different categories, those ones now must be held accountable for what they have done or left undone.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer, giving a quite, how can I say, a picture of how, we are meant to go about making a decision, and if it's a success, everybody obviously is happy. When it fails, people are upset and disappointed, of course. And then, like you mentioned, there's accountability for the person who made the decision. And I want to talk about this accountability in a second, in a moment, I should say. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, I want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you want to know more about the Grail message, or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is family first or the law first. Family first or the law first. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space Grail message, space the topic of the show, which is tonight, family first or the law first. And after the show ends, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. You go to the search box and you type the same words, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space Grail message, space family first or the law first, which is the topic of the show tonight. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.fm/radio/Bless Radio 1. Now, we're talking about accountability. So Gregory, when things go wrong, the decision was made and it was implemented, let's say by a prime minister or any leader who's supposed to represent the country or government. And now, so let's say when something goes wrong by this prime minister or whatever position the person has, should they resign? Should they admit something went wrong and try to correct it? Or what was my other thing about that? So let me just say that again. So when something goes wrong, a decision has been made by somebody like the prime minister or so on, and should they basically resign and apologize for what happened and say, okay, I got it wrong, let somebody else do it? Or should they try to, well, maybe they still say sorry, but they try to stay there and correct the this whatever went wrong?
The questions you ask, that particular one, is dependent on the framework which has been set up within that particular society. In this forum, it's not for one to advise to resign or not to resign, to do this or not to do this. What the forum does is to present the framework in nature, in creation, such that things would work harmoniously. And when things work harmoniously, it means that failure or harm is minimized. However, those who are at the helm of affairs, who have been tasked to ensure that there is continuity and that no harm should befall such a nation. Those who have taken on the responsibilities must account give an account of their stewardship. It is the society that is led. It is what they have put in place that we may then call for resignation or no resignation. Therefore, in a forum like ours, is that we wish everyone well, but to know what responsibilities they have taken upon themselves.
Thanks a lot for that, Gregory. There was one third option which I couldn't think of at that moment, but now I've discovered it. It's called paying the penalty. So the first one I said resign. Number two, apologize and rectify. And the third one is penalty. Penalty, I mean, it's very hard to say what penalty, because, let's say like this. Say you made a decision and it resulted in losing £10 million. I'm just making something up, okay? Now this £10 million has been lost, and so what you could, let's say there was supposed to be a penalty. Let's say this £10 million is we're talking like say government decision. Now the person, let's say a minister or prime minister made that decision, they cannot put 10 million back from their own pocket. So that's not going to work in that sense. So I was thinking, I know, Gregory, you already answered in a way already. Let me just say it anyway. Should there be a penalty applied when there's a failure? And but if so, how could it be done? Because as I said, the penalty could be the loss might be so high, the person, if he was to he couldn't repay the penalty, the what is the loss basically. So yeah.
Like was mentioned before, the forum is such that there is no jurisdiction to say, if you do this, this will be your punishment. If you do good, okay, this is your reward. If you do not do good, in accordance with human society, this should be your punishment. What has been stressed again and again is that the laws of creation are impartial, and whatever an individual has sown with his or her free will to make decisions, that it may reap before long, it may reap here or hereafter, but definitely the returns will come. How and when, and the manner in which these returns will return to the individual, that is left to the operations within creation. It is not within one's remit to lay down rules which are completely out of place, and to say resign or pay a penalty or do this. And that is basically for the system they have put in place. Whereas the framework of the decisions which are made here is to assist the individual to gradually develop itself and make finer and better decisions as to how and when the returns will come. That is dependent on the laws of creation, the laws of nature.
Thanks a lot for that, Gregory. Now, I know we mentioned this a bit earlier, but I want to come back to it. Let's say you mentioned this word visibility. So I'm going to pick another word similar. It's called transparency, or telling the truth, maybe another way to put it. So maybe the way forward to be successful in making decisions or producing the right, let's say, good results is transparency, having transparency. Then everybody can see, okay, this decision was made like this. Now, okay, here it was not, let's say some mistake was made or something like that. Because that's one thing we find, Gregory, as I say, people are embarrassed to admit, oh, I didn't check that. Oh, I didn't consider this, and they wouldn't like to admit it. But once the disaster happens, they do inquiry or investigation, and they say, oh, we didn't know this, so maybe the lesson or the way forward, let's say, is we should make a principle that when we go forward with look at find a sort of a solution or make a decision to proceed with something, that we should be, how can I say, do it with transparency. So anything you would like to say to that, Gregory?
The question would be transparency to whom? To the whole society or to a select few?
Okay. Well, let's say it should be the whole society.
Then if it's to the whole society and one is unable to identify those who mean well or who have ill intentions, it means therefore one is exposing the whole mechanics of the operation by the government to all and sundry, particularly to those who have ill motives. However, it is good to make things visible and transparent to those in government, but not to all. But these are specifics. And I want to keep stressing, the purpose of this sort of discussion is to enable the individual, each individual, to act in such a way that their activities resonate with the laws of nature, the laws of creation, such that the returns will be of benefit not only to themselves but also to others.
Thanks very much for that. These words there, Gregory. Thank you for that. Now, dear listeners, we've come to the end of our short discussion tonight on the topic of family first or the law first. And hope you've enjoyed the journey. Let's say it was going there, hither and thither, but I do believe we covered a lot of areas. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now, I would like to read from the foreword of the Grail message, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of the ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Apprushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And Gregory, would you like to say anything to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same for me, listeners. Have a beautiful week again ahead. We will be back next Tuesday with another topic, and hope you can join us for that. Take care. Good night.